Hello, everybody. This is meteorologist Andrew Panera with this next Full Throttle Thursday. And this is the first Full Throttle Thursday of 2020 and of the new decade. So let's get right to it. In this one, it's nothing overly exciting at the moment. It's regular maintenance. And this is something that is very important. You have to keep up on your regular maintenance with your cars, whether it's your daily driver, and the daily driver is the one that needs the most attention. Or it could be your old collector car. Even though we may want to pay a little bit more attention to the collector car versus the daily driver, the one that you drive most, really needs the most attention. And my WRX here is my daily driver. So it's my fun car and it's my daily driver. So it has to have a lot of attention. It's the only car. But we are going to do some regular monthly maintenance. Now, this is halfway through the month. Usually I do my monthly maintenance at the beginning of the month, but it's not too bad out right now with the temperatures, so let's get to our monthly maintenance. What I always like to start out with monthly maintenance is the fluids. So let's pop open the hood and take a look at some of those fluid levels and the quality of the fluids, such as the oil. You want to check the color and the thickness, because if it's getting near your oil change, it could be getting really black. So let's pop open the hood and take a look. Alright, so under the hood here, the first thing I always like to check right here, the oil. Now, the engine is still warm and the warmth feels nice on my hands because it's not the warmest out. But let's take a look at some things here. So the first thing I usually check is the level. Actually, the color, because the level is not always going to be accurate when you first stop the engine. Here, this is what I'm looking at. So it's kind of blackening. That is something that lets me know that it's getting near the time to change the oil, but darkening of the oil is normal. Blackening of the oil means it's getting near the end of its life, and I do know it's been nearly 6,000 miles since my last oil change, so that's coming up very soon. So now that I've had one pass, just wiping down the dipstick, I'm going to put it back in and check the level now. So the level is a little bit low. You can't really see it, but that little dot, that is where the oil should be, but it's a little bit below that dot. I'm going to check one more time, and then we'll know if we need to add some oil. So we do need to add a little bit of oil. So let's do that right now. Okay, so here I have the engine oil fill port. So I'm going to open this up and add a little bit of oil. I put a little bit in there, maybe about a quarter of the bottle. Let's check it on the dipstick, and I'll let you know here. My estimate was good, so I'm going to seal this back up. Alright, so some other fluid levels you want to check are going to be the brake fluid, the windshield wash, and if you have power steering fluid. All that you want to make sure is checked. Now with mine, because it is a manual, the brake fluid, the reservoir is shared between the brake master cylinder and the clutch master cylinder. So that's really important to check. And let's take a look at some of that right now. Alright, so here I have the brake fluid reservoir. It's sitting right now on top of the master cylinder, which is right down here. This has two lines that come out of it. One goes to the front set of brakes, one goes to the rear set of brakes. Now there's also a little tube on the back side here that goes, it's tucked away down into there. the master cylinder for the clutch. The clutch and the brake have separate master cylinders. And this one reservoir feeds both. And the way this kind of works, we have two lines. There's a line right up here that says max, and there's a line right down here that says min. Now, if you take a look at the reservoir itself, you can see my brake fluid is kind of right up at the top, just a little bit under this max line, which is good. It's not down near min, it's just a little bit under max. Now, I'm not going to fill that, because whenever you open up the cap here, I open up the reservoir, and when I do that, or when you do that, you allow moisture from the air to get into the brake fluid. When you introduce moisture in the brake fluid, that's not a good thing. So you want to try and minimize the amount of time that you're opening up the reservoir for the brake fluid. So here, I'm not even going to open that. And the fluid looks pretty good there, so let's move on. All right, so I did move over here to the other side of the car engine. And the one thing that I do want to show you real quick here, we were just at the brake master cylinder, but on this side, these are also brake lines. And those two bigger pipes that we saw on the other side, where the brake master cylinder are, go into here for the front brakes and the rear brakes. And this whole module is the ABS system, anti-lock braking system. So here, this is the computer-controlled system where if it detects wheel spin, it'll prevent the brakes from clamping down and stopping the wheel. It'll release the brake pressure just a little bit. So that's what this whole module is. So two lines coming in for front and rear brakes, and there's four lines here going out to each of the four brake calipers. So that's all four wheels there. So that's with the brake master cylinder and the clutch master cylinder on the other side feeding the ABS system. Whoa. What happened? I'm inside. How did I change? Huh. It's funny how the video editing continuity can change sometimes. Anyway, so we looked at some fluids so far under the engine. The last one is going to be the coolant. You want to make sure that the coolant level is right at the right mixture. Not necessarily how much is in there. That's one important thing too. But also the right mixture. So I'm going to show you that right now. All right, so I'm up at the front of the car now. The radiator's sitting all up here. This is the radiator cap. And this is the radiator reservoir, or the coolant reservoir. So now the car has been cool. I have not turned it on at all today. So the engine sitting right there is completely room temperature. So that means the coolant and all these pipes are room temperature. You do not want to open up the radiator cap when you have a hot engine. Now I'm going to bring up a little cloth just because this can spill. And if it does spill and you have pets, you got to be careful because the coolant in here, the glycol, is sweet tasting, but it's also toxic. So if pets are attracted to the sweet smell and the sweet taste and start licking it, they could die. So you want to make sure if you're doing anything with coolant that there are no pets around, and if you do spill, clean it up right after. So that's why I have the cloth here. So when I open up the radiator cap here, it's not going to spill too far. Okay, so the first thing you always want to kind of check is inside here. You can't really see it too well at the camera, but there is a level for low and full. Now, this full level that's down here, you want to only fill it when it's hot. You want to allow room for this coolant to expand. So I'm a little bit on the low side. I'm going to fill it just a little bit so it's just about halfway up right now. So let me get some coolant and fill that up. So I'm just popping this open. All my funnels are always missing when I need them, and whenever I don't need them, they're always around. So I'm going to try and freehand this. And this, right there, the Prestone 5050, This is pre-mixed. Because if you buy straight antifreeze, you cannot put that into a car directly without throwing off the mix. So you want to get some sort of like 50-50 mix like this, or mix it yourself. Let's try and get this careful. That looks good right there, just needed a little fill. And the next thing you want to do is you want to test with one of these testers right here. So this tube pulls up a little bit of the fluid. I'm going to pull from the radiator cap because that's sitting in the radiator itself. And on here, there's a level here on both sides for the hot and the cold. So here, the freeze point, you want to try and get it to as much as possible without going too much. So right about here, this level here is showing a freeze point of -45 Fahrenheit, -43 Celsius. And on this side, there we go, it's going to show a boiling point of 268 Fahrenheit or 131 Celsius. So you want to try and get it up right around there for your mix. And there's a little floating piece in there. When I suck up some of this, it's going to then try and float to the right mix. So I'm going to pop this open, get my cloth. Just let that sit over here. Try and minimize that spill. And now, with this little squeeze bubble, you want to squeeze it to get all the air out. And here you want to just suck up, stick it in as far as you can, suck up some of this coolant right at the top here. It's kind of out of frame, but let me just pull some up and show you. So here, I have it filled to just about, there we go, just about where that full level where it's supposed to be. And look at where that orange kind of like floating pointer is. It's right at the top there. So that's showing me it has a boiling point of 268 Fahrenheit, 131 Celsius. And the freezing point right here, -43 Celsius, -45 Fahrenheit. So that is showing that level there is good. Now this I'm not going to put straight back into the radiator. I'm going to put into the reservoir tank, just it's kind of hard to get it back into the radiator. Close up all this, and we're going to move on. One last thing to check while we're here. This is windshield wash. This can be very important if you have dirty windshields and you need to clean them in a pinch. So it looks like the level's a little bit low there. So I'm just going to pop this open and add a little bit of windshield wash. Now, I just use this de-icer windshield wash all the time, year round. It doesn't hurt it, doesn't do anything. So I just use de-icer all year round. You don't have to though, but it's good to put the de-icer in, especially in the winter, which it is right now. It's the first week of March. All right, that is good to go. Starting recording in 3, 2, 1. All right, so one other part you want to try and check, depends on your car, is the transmission fluid. So we got oil, we had windshield wash, we had coolant, we had brake fluid, which is also the master clutch cylinder. Now the other part of the transmission besides the clutch cylinder reservoir and the brake fluid is the transmission fluid itself. Now the transmission's sitting kind of right down through there. It's really hard to get a camera down there, so unfortunately you can't really see what I'm seeing. But there is, down in that little area, a little dipstick. So I'm going to see if I can get my hand down there to get that transmission dipstick out. My my hand is on the transmission. Where did that little dipstick go? There it is. And this is really just checking the level there. It is right at the full point. I don't know. Yeah, you're not really able to see that, but actually it's a tiny bit under full, but that's okay. And transmission fluid does smell. So let me see if I can get that back down in here. That is a very short dipstick, but that's really all you need for the transmission. Hello up there. One other thing you want to check once you start making your way back is the tires. Now you want to check for any damage to the tires and the rim, and you want to check the tread. So here, you want to check the sidewall, make sure there's no damage. I know sometimes we have little curb rash, but here I don't have any. The tread still looks good. These winter tires, the Bridgestone Blizzak WS80s I have on here, these are about 7 years old. And since I only use them in the winter, the tread doesn't wear out very fast. So that's still good. Tire pressure you want to check. I have the little piece right down here. Now on the sidewall, you got to read the sidewall to see what the recommended tire pressure is, so you don't overinflate or underinflate. All right, we are back outside again right now, and what's happening here? Well, besides some maintenance with the oil and the radiator and the coolant and all these fluid levels, the tire pressure, those are all good things to keep clean. The other thing you want to keep clean is the interior of the car, especially with what's going on right now. You want to disinfect the steering wheel. For whether you have a manual or an automatic, everybody has some sort of a shifter. Even if they're buttons, you want to disinfect whatever your shifting mechanism is. And the handbrake, any of the doorknobs, you want to disinfect all the high touch areas. I'm going to go a step further because I'm looking and the floor is absolutely messy. So I am going to also be vacuuming out the car. So stick around for that. All right, so back in the studio here for this next Full Throttle Thursdays wrap up. So overall, we checked some of the fluids, some of the coolant, the oil, and we checked the tire pressure. And one thing I haven't done in a while that I should have is vacuum out the inside of the car. That was quite dirty. That should be something that you do on a regular basis as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Now stick around, I'm going to have more Full Throttle Thursdays coming out. And the next one, we're going to talk a little bit about when should you change your winter tires into summer tires, because it's almost April now. So when the meteorologist removes their winter tires, is that a sign that means there's no more snow? Well, stick around and we will talk about that in the next episode. So I hope you guys enjoy it again. Thank you for watching. This is meteorologist Andrew Pinero. Please stay safe out there, and I will see you all in that next video.